Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon. So today we are from group 13 going to present about our group assignment. So my name is Nurkhairunisa Nizam and my fellow friends Ms. Nur Hidayah, Mr. Sanjeevan, Mr. Nugantiran and Ms. Siti Akila. I will start with my introduction. In this assignment, we have to choose 5 domains from E-M. These are the 5 domains that we have chosen. The first one is uthm.edu.my, the second one is rmc.uthm.edu.my, the third one is maponline.uthm.edu.my, the fourth one is icc.uthm.edu.my, and the last one is ptm.uthm.edu.my. Then by using these domains, we will undergo a few experiments like information gathering, vulnerability assessment, and penetration tests. After this, my fellow friends will explain more about these experiments and the result that we have concluded from these experiments. I will let Ms. Hidayah to continue our presentation.
Thank you, Lisa. So next I will explain about chapter 2, which is literature review. So this literature review examines the tools that can be used for the experiment activities in this assignment. So the first tool that can be applied is command line tools, for example, Nmap, which can be used to find live hosts on a network, implement port scanning, ping sweep, OS detection, and version detection. So the next tool is online tools, for example, centralops.net. It is the tool for various DNS tests, such as investigating domains and IP addresses, getting registry information, DNS record, etc., and all in one report. So beside that, there is also a non-online tool that can be applied for the activities, which is Wireshark. Wireshark is a packet analyzer and sniffer that record network activity on the local network and save it for offline analysis later. So another tool that can be useful, especially for vulnerability assessment, is Nessus. It is a remote security scanning tool that examines a computer and alerts if it finds any flaws that malicious hacker may exploit to obtain access to any device on a network. It works by testing it to see if the attackers could use the flaws to break into the computer, especially with the intention to harm in it. It has 5 levels of vulnerabilities. And lastly, the Burp Suite tool, especially for penetration testing. It is one of the most widely used penetration testing and vulnerability detection tools, and it is frequently used to check the security of web applications. So next is chapter 3.
Thank you, Hidayah. Next is I will explain about chapter 3, information gathering. Okay, now we are information gathering using Nmap, viewdns.info, centralops.net, and Wireshark software. Okay, the first domain we are using to conduct the experiment is www.uthm.edu.my domain. Okay, first of all, by using command promote, we have find the addresses of UTHM domain using nslookup command. Okay, the address are 103.31.34.251. So after we find the address, we are using it to gathering information about UTHM domain. Next. Okay, next is figure above show about ZenMap software interface. We have find open ports in UTHM domain by using Nmap service. Okay, these are central OPS interface. After that, we are using centralops.net website to get information about the UTHM domain. We have found the geographical location, email, phone number, and extra information about UTHM domain. Okay, these are the additional information about UTHM domain. Okay, these are the graphical location. We are using viewdns.info to get about the graphical, to get about the IP location of UTHM domain. Okay, these are the Wireshark software. By using Wireshark, we can verify the packet transfer between the UTHM domain and the host. There are a lot of packet like HTTP1, HTTP2, HTTP3, and TCP protocols. Figure above show about the one of a protocol packet. They are uh, they have a source port number and destination port number.
Okay, thank you, Naveen. I'm Sanjeev, and I would like to explain about the penetration testing we did using the Burp Suite. First of all, we set up the Burp Suite proxy in the Firefox, and we are ready to do the penetration testing. Next. Okay. For this presentation, I would like to explain about one domain, which is uthm.edu.my. Okay, first of all, we found the administrator page by using Burp Suite sitemap crawl. So every site will have a login page for the administrator to add or remove content. So we found it, and then next. Okay, the first test we did for the injection. So what is mean by injection? SQL injection vulnerabilities arise when user controllable data is incorporated into database SQL queries. It means an attacker can inject malicious codes through the input, and then it can affect the SQL queries from and the response will be favored for the attackers. So it will retrieve much more data to the attackers. Okay, next. Okay, first what we did is we entered username and password field with malicious character, which is upper code, to check the output in the Burp Suite. And the Burp Suite, you can see at the username and password field is just brought as %27. It means the malicious code, the upper code is converted to the non-malicious string. But then there's an error in this page, in this site, which is whenever wrong credentials entered, the page will are not not giving the proper error message. It's just going to the one of the an error has occurred page. So it shows some vulnerabilities in this page. Okay, next. Okay, then the request is scanned uh, and then the SQL injection vulnerability is identified. Then the but then whenever we check the response, the intrusion prevention system has identified the malicious request and dropped the packets before it reaches the server. So then we tested with payloads, means we have tested with much more combinations of malicious scripts, but then it also resulted in the same behavior. It is because the website is using uh, an intrusion prevention system before the request reach to the server. So even though it has some kind of vulnerabilities, but then the data is properly sanitized, and then intrusion prevention is also in action to filter the bad requests. Okay, next. Okay, the next test was insecure direct object references. What is that mean is the URL might expose a reference to an internal implementation object, such as another file, another user's record, and so on. So something is not secure. Okay, next. In the site, as I mentioned before, after we enter the wrong credentials, it redirects to one of the not properly configured page where you can see in the first image there's a logout and then edit account option. So when I clicked on the edit account option, it redirects to the login page, but then it gives a different uh, URL with additional get parameters. So next, we have used the parameters to test with the direct objects vulnerabilities, but then the site does not refer to any direct objects through the get parameters, and it displays just the login page. And you can see here the length in all the responses indirect insecure direct objects. Okay, okay, the next test we did was sensitive data exposure. What is mean that the vulnerabilities which will occur when sensitive data such as uh, password and then credit card details are exposed to the attackers. Next. Okay, after scanning the login request of this site, the result did not show any vulnerabilities related to the data exposure issues, such as email address disclosed and clear text submission of password. That means the sensitive data is protected before it is sent to the server. So the site is still secure from this vulnerability. Next. The next is security misconfiguration issues. What is mean by that is application misconfiguration attacks exploit configuration weakness found in web applications. It can happen in any level of an application, including the web server, application server, database, and framework at any places of the full stack of the website. Okay, next. So we did that, and then how we did that test is the request. Sorry. First, we have captured the we captured the get parameters, and then we used some directory a common payload. Okay, after we test, we have found that there's a page that shows icons, but then we can't find it in the sitemap. But after we tested, there's a page. When we entered into the icons directory, we can see all the icons in their server, but then it's secure because it doesn't reveal any sensitive information such as database, password, username. There's no such details in this page. It just shows the icon that is used in this website. Okay, next. Okay, the next is missing function level access control. Anyone with network access to an application can send a request to it. Therefore, web application should verify function level access rights for all requested actions by any user. For example, if a user tries to access to the admin privilege page, they must not be authenticated or must not be authorized to access to that pages, even though from the penetration testing or any other testing tools. So that is called function level access control. Okay, next. Here we can see that the most of the files showed status 301, and it means the files are moved permanently. Some link has been sent to the repeater to check whether the directories are redirectable or not. And in the right hand side, it's the result after the follow redirect. the response is still error 404, which is not found. So this site has function level access control and it is still secure. Next. Test for components with non-vulnerabilities. Sometimes there will be some vulnerabilities in their server or in their using programming language and so on. So if they can't attack directly, an attacker can use some of these vulnerability details to attack indirectly with the by exploiting the server vulnerabilities or some other components. Next, for this site, we have scanned for the server and we saw that the server is Apache and its version is 2.4.6. But then we have tried to surf the internet with the server version, uh, and the server version is up to date and it has no vulnerabilities so far, so it is still safe. Next, test for open directions. Open directions means a direction which is performed to a location specified in user supply data. Um, it is actually a flaw during the implementation or during the development phase. Sometimes the developer might be uh, not might be more careless in this part, so it can be used by the attackers to attack. Okay, next. Okay, how we checked this was we went to the target tab and then under the sitemap we checked for the www.uthm.ed.my. Under that, we can see all the pages and all the contents in that domain. And then when we checked for any redirectable pages, unfortunately, we did not find any redirectable links to external sources. So it means it is secure from that vulnerability too. Next, the most made cross-site scripting is the most dangerous in the vulnerabilities, and then it represents a critical security weakness within an application. Okay, next. Here we have tried with a script. You can see in the body and then in the task and the return values. I have injected the script in the ls and then one. It's just a normal injection to test whether the site is reflecting the script or not. So we have tested, but then uh, the, the site is still safe from the cross-site scripting attack. So that means the data is properly sanitizing before it uh, give the response, give the request to the server, and then the server is still verifying and sanitizing the data before it reaches the user. Okay, this test is uh, done under the top 10 OS vulnerabilities, and this is our result for this domain. And the other four domains also give approximately the same result as this. All the sites we tested are safe to use and it is secure. Next.
Okay, for vulnerability assessment, like Muraidaya said, in vulnerability assessment, we use Nessus tool to scan the vulnerability that malicious hacker could use to gain access to any website. So the website that we scan is www.uthm.edu.my. So this is the result after we scan using Nessus. As we can see, the critical part is none. But in height, we found one risk, and in median, we found 8 risks. The height risk is from SSL version 2 and 3 protocol detection. In Nessus 2, we can only scan to find vulnerability that hacker could exploit. So after this step, system administration need to patch this vulnerability in order to create a security solution. Okay, next.
Next, for chapter 4, which is result and discussion. The first experiment, which is information gathering, we could gather a lot of information like the domain ownership, IP address, other IP address of the domain, open ports, and live host can be obtained by using command line tools in command prompts such as nslookup and nmap. Next, the information of target address, phone numbers, domain name, and geographical location of the domain are obtained by using centralops.net. Based on the result, it shows that all of the domain has the same network IP address, which means the domains are all under the same domain ownership. Next, for non-online tool, we can verify the packet transfer between the UTHM domain and host by using Wireshark. Next, for vulnerability assessment. As in the experiment, we are using Nessus for this vulnerability assessment. After scanning in Nessus, it will give the result of any vulnerabilities that has been discovered, and we can know if malicious hackers could use it to gain access to the website that have connected to a network. Based on the result, we could also know the number of vulnerabilities and their status for every domain, whether they are critical, high, medium, or low. So next is penetration testing, which we use Burp Suite for it. So as UTHM has implemented an intrusion prevention system before the server, any of the activities in the website that have suspicious patterns, it will automatically drop all the bad requests to secure the server. However, PTM UTHM EU.my and www.uthm.edu.my have not properly handled the error exception, but fortunately it does not affect the security of the system because it has the data sanitization and intrusion prevention system. So for the next pen test, Burp has identified that SMAP website has email addresses disclosed, but for this situation, the email addresses that have been disclosed are only the general email address that will be used for the student to contact, which is SISWA email. So therefore, the SMAP site is still considered secure. So in addition, for this penetration testing, the components such as Apache server are up to date and no component vulnerabilities to be exploited for all of the website. Penetration testing for the SRF vulnerability is not tested because it needs authorized access, but the system successfully halted and the authorization gaining attacks. So to conclude the result for this penetration testing, all of the 5 UTHM domain websites that have been chosen are properly configured and the data is well secured too. So in addition to the result of the experiment, we can see that SMAP is the most secured and well configured site among the 5 sites we tested and analyzed.
So as the conclusion, there are a lot of tools such as command line, online tools, and non-online tools that can be used to identify whether the website is secure or not. Other than that, you can also undergo a few experiments like vulnerability assessment and penetration tests to check whether the website is exposed to malicious hackers or not. I think that's all from us. Thank you.